Hey, welcome back to another web development video. Today, I'm talking about how to pass a coding interview when you're a junior developer and you haven't gotten that first dev job yet. So I wrote down a whole bunch of my thoughts on this, I wanted to kind of share some of my knowledge on the process that I helped define to help get me my first developer job. Also, some of my experiences that I've had getting some positions in the past. So I'll jump into it here. Tips on how to pass a coding interview specifically for people that haven't had a developer job before. So first thing you need to remember is that once you have an interview, you need to do some prep work after that, right? You need to find out as much about the company as you can. Hopefully you've already done a little bit of prep work in the application process. You've already kind of looked them up, but if you haven't done a lot of prep work on that, that's okay. Do some more, try to find out as much of the company and the team as you can. Go to their website, look for articles, go to LinkedIn, try to see what anybody in the company is posting, stuff like that, ongoing news, those types of things. And then also from there, if you're interviewing for a company that you know uses a certain tech stack, do algos in whatever that tech stack that you're interviewing for in. So if that company, if you know that they use JavaScript and you applied as a JavaScript developer, go do algos. Go start doing more and more algos for interview prep for that position and whiteboard them out. That is most important. You need to run as many as you can on your machine to go through that way to make sure that you're actually getting things right, but also whiteboard them out and get good at whiteboarding, get comfortable with whiteboarding. Okay, so after you've done your prep work and you have your interview, you think about your dress. So you want to dress nice, but you want to be comfortable. As you may know, dress code's fairly casual in a lot of tech places, but you're gonna look better if you are dressed nice. And this means think about who you would hire if you were in that position. Would you hire the guy in slacks, or would you hire the guy in jeans? And what you're trying to do is be professional here and show that you're serious, but also you don't need to wear a three-piece suit. If it's summertime, you don't need to wear a suit coat. You might not need to wear a suit coat anyways. You might not even need to wear a tie. It really depends on where you interview. If you can get a sense of that company's more casual, don't dress up too nice. I would recommend kind of standard in the Seattle area for interviews that I've done here in tech and non-tech roles. I'll wear slacks or slack type pants that are slacks, but maybe a little more stylish than slacks, tucked in button down shirt, and then no tie. And that's where I go from there. And then usually for me, something I like to do is I always roll my sleeves up. That's just a comfort thing for me. But that's what I do. I make sure I wear a belt with that, and I wear good quality casual style dress shoes. I actually think I wear I think the style is called Oxford, but it's not too fancy. It's a little fancy, but I think Penguin makes a pair of shoes that I wear that aren't too fancy, but they're nice looking. They look great with jeans. They look great with like a casual, more type of pant, like a slacks, like Dockers or something like that. Okay. When you arrive, make sure that you've had some notes, have them with you, and then go through whatever stories that you come up with, specifically STAR stories. And if you haven't heard of STAR stories before, they are situation, task, action, result. And the point of that basically is to get through and be able to relate to the question, tell me about a time when X, Y, Z. Tell me when you did this. Tell me when you did that. And that way you have 5 or 10 of these stories that you have rehearsed in your mind that you know, here's a difficult situation, here's what was going on, here's what I did, and then here's how it resolved. This is what ended up happening and whatever I learned from it or whatever that is. So read through a few of those and make sure you have them written down and done some prep work on that in the interview process anyways. And then when you, before you get to the interview, if you're there early or if you're driving on the way there, here's a tip that I really like to do. I like to listen to comedy. Try to get myself laughing and smiling, relax myself, take my mind off of repeating things too much. That way I can get myself in a good mood. When I go in, I can be smiling and be happier. And when I do arrive, and I also recommend arrive to the office 10 minutes early, No earlier and no later. So if you get there half an hour early, great. Sit in your car, read your star stories, listen to comedy. Don't get there 5 minutes late. Do not get there sharp at whatever time it is. Get there a little bit early and come in. Don't do what I did. Huge mistake. One time I got well over half an hour early. I went in, I sat down in a conference room for probably 35 minutes while everybody ignored me out there. And I'm sure everybody's rolling their eyes. Look at this guy. He showed up super early for no reason. They have jobs. They have things they have to do. So they're not going to come interview you early. They're going to interview you on time whenever they said that was. If it was at 1 p.m., that's when they're coming to interview. So show up 10 minutes early. And then wherever they direct you to, just go in there and just get comfortable. Okay. So during the interview questions. So I have a lot to talk through here. And this is kind of the meat of what I want to talk about this. So during the interview, what they're trying to find out, if you're a junior developer trying to get that first position, what would you work well inside the existing team? Are you a likable, good, nice person? Do you have passion for whatever this position or technology is? Do you seem smart? And can you communicate well? That's what they're looking for. All of their questions and their responses, those things that they're trying to find out. So do you work well? Are you a nice person and they like you? Are you passionate? Do you seem smart? And can you communicate? All of those things. So if you fail on any of these things, it's a pretty big red flag. If they think that you don't have the passion, or if you don't communicate well or something like that, that's a big red flag for them. So those are the things you're trying to get across. Now, when you're in there, you want to be honest and enthusiastic and not apologetic for what you don't know. You want to be confident. And like I said, you're going for friendly. You're going to be confident. Again, confident. Be eager and a team player. So that means when you go in there, right, just be eager. Hey, I'm excited to be here. This is great. I can't wait to get through this interview. Let's talk. I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. That's the attitude you want to go in there with. If you don't know something, say that you don't know. It's okay. Say, I'm not familiar with that, or say as much as you do know. Say, I know just a little bit about that, but not a lot. So you don't want to lie. Never lie in your interview. Don't try to BS your way through anything that you don't know. They will spot that immediately. But indicate that you would love to learn if you don't know that. I don't know much about REST APIs other than one time I tried to implement one. I didn't do well on it. And I'd love to learn more about it. Do you guys work with them here? Is that what you're asking me? Because I would love to learn more about REST APIs, just as an example. So don't lie. Again, do not lie. Do not lie in your resume. Do not lie and BS your way through anything there. They will sniff it out immediately. It's a huge red flag. And they won't tell you. They might just look at you and nod their heads, but they'll know. If they're asking you those questions, they already know the answers to them. They're trying to figure out what type of person you are. Okay. They are looking to see how well you work as a team player, because when you're in that position, a lot of times they're going to be asking you to do tasks that you've never done before. So what is your approach for that new task that you don't know? Are you going to lie your way and say that I do know how to do it? Or are you going to go to them and say, I'm not really familiar with this. Can you help me with this? That's what they want to find out. So, okay, we'll move down my list here. So next, you want to try to relate your past experiences and skills to your current job. Seems fairly simple, but that's where you have your star stories for. You want to talk about what you're bringing to the table, right? This is very important as a junior. I used to be this, and now I'm trying to be a developer. I really want to be a developer because I had this experience in whatever it was. So make sure that you have kind of your list of skills, why you'd be a good fit together, okay? They're probably going to ask you what you're currently trying to do to become a better developer. This is a really big question. So if I say, hi, great to meet you. We're in our interview now as an interviewer, and I'm asking you, tell me how you stay up to date. Tell me what you're doing currently to learn or stay up to date with whatever technologies or whatever you're learning, stuff like that. You need to have an answer here. For me, it's videos. I am terrible at documentation. A lot of times I find it dry, and if I'm familiar with the concept, it's great, but if I'm trying to learn something brand new, I really, really prefer videos, and then to actually build a project on my own. You need to have an answer that's similar to that. You need to have an answer that this is what I do to learn. This is what I'm currently doing to learn. Maybe that's books. Maybe it's documentation, whatever. Maybe you'd like to read blog articles, whatever. Maybe you just build stuff or whatever it is. Maybe you love tutorials, really common. You need to say what you're currently doing to become a better developer. It's a red flag if you don't have an answer here. If you fumble around and say, that pause, not sure, that's a red flag. They don't want to hear that. Okay, so star stories. I want to talk real quickly about these. So, like I said, it's a situation that you were involved in that had a positive outcome. It's a task. Let me scroll down here in my notes. It's a task that you were involved in, and what tasks were around that, whatever that situation is, what tasks were included, right? Whatever action you took, and then the results. So make sure that you have these together. That's STAR. So situation, task, action, results. And like I said, make sure you have these written down well before your interview, because they're going to come in handy in your interview questions, especially when you come to questions like this. Okay, example of a question are like, what projects have you done? So if you have a STAR story here, then you can kind of help talk about, here's your situation. I was trying to make this project on my own. I was trying to deploy it live. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So what I did was I called my friend who knows how to do stuff. That would be your action. And then the result was I learned how to get it live, and I have it up and live now. And I learned how to launch it on AWS or wherever it is. Really simple STAR story there. But if you have that already together and written out, you're really going to be able to nail that project, or not project. You're going to be able to nail that question about your projects. And when you're talking about what projects you've done, you want to talk about your GitHub, your portfolio, talk about the technologies and the challenges you had using those technologies, talk about the future improvements and what you learned from those. So all those things combined, you want to have all those kind of written down already in your projects that you're going to be talking about. Okay. If they ask you where you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, this is a dumb question because people generally don't know, especially if you're junior. There could be so many different areas, but have an answer for this. You could be very simple, like, I'm going to be, in 5 years, I want to be a mid-level dev. I'm talking about junior devs getting that first job. I want to be a mid-level dev. In 10 years, I want to be a team lead, or 10 years, I want to be a senior developer, or 10 years, I want to be a director or something like that. Just have an answer there. What they're looking for is, they're looking for to see if you are thinking about how you're going to get where you're going and how passionate you really truly are, or you're just trying to get a job. Are you just trying to get a jobby job right now? Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're not. You actually seriously do want to get a developer job, which is great. Awesome. But just have that in mind, because it's kind of a trick BS question. I don't like that question at all, but it gets asked a lot. If they ask you personal questions, like, what do you like to do for fun? Try to keep it about tech as something that you do in your spare time. So whatever you do, tech in spare time, for fun, really. I spend most of my spare time right now writing code is a great answer, and learning about JavaScript or whatever it is, great answer. And then mention and try to loop this back into what you really want to do is get yourself hired so that you can work with the team of mentors, right? So you can further your knowledge and you can learn about best practices and contribute to an actual project and work in your passion. So what you're trying to do here is show them that I'm not trying to get a jobby job. I'm actively trying to learn and get better as a developer. I'm passionate about this, and in my spare time, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get better, and that's why you should hire me. That's the answer that you want to answer right there. And then, if they ask, and they probably will, if you have questions for them, you definitely should. It's okay if you have these written down. Oh, I forgot to mention, bring your resume into there. It shows that you're prepared. Bring your resume to the interview. Even if they don't look at it, bring it there, leave it on the table. When you leave, you don't need to take it with you. Just leave it there. Leave it in a folder or whatever it is, paper. Print out a couple copies. Don't just print out one, but bring them in. They'll probably already have your resume, but it at least shows that you're prepared. Okay, so if they say, do you have any questions for me, which they probably will, You want to ask things like, what's a project like? What technologies are they using? What are the challenges currently? Do you have, and then ask if they have feedback for you. Ask for feedback. Ask, what are my knowledge gaps? What could I have done better in this interview? They'll probably give that to you, which is great. And it shows, asking this stuff really shows you that you are very serious, you're very interested in working there, and that you want to know how you can improve. So definitely ask for feedback. Some other questions to ask. What they expect out of you as a junior developer. What you're looking for are answers that are based around learning, growing, knowledge, curiosity, stuff that you probably already have, that helps you think about why you want to be a developer. I'm here, I want to learn, right? Obviously, you're trying to get that job because you obviously want to get paid for doing that, but you also probably want to be a developer because you like learning about that type of stuff. That's what you want. You want them to invest in you as a junior developer, to bring you up to the next level, to bring you up to that mid-level, contribute a lot, learn a lot along the way, and you want to be basically kind of a, how do I describe this easily, like a half-made sculpture, right? You are kind of halfway there, and you want them to mold you into that work of art developer so that you learn from them and they can shape you as a developer to use their tech, their stack, their techniques, and be a good, great, awesome contributor to everything that they do. What you don't want to hear are answers to talk about how many hours they want you to work, how much of workload they want you to take on, how many bugs they want you to fix, increasing test coverage. Those are kind of red flag answers. That means that they aren't interested in developing you. They're interested in getting a warm body in a seat. They're trying to put a butt in a seat to do basic manual work, and they care less about you as a developer. They care more about you as just, you're just putting a warm butt in a seat and you're just hammering at the keyboard. They don't really want to grow you. So that's a red flag there. You don't want to see those. Okay, let's talk about whiteboarding. Practice whiteboarding. If you're not practicing whiteboarding before you're going to coding interviews, you're doing it wrong. You got to practice whiteboarding. You got to practice it a lot. Practice. When you are whiteboarding, go get a big whiteboard. You see this whiteboard behind me? It's like 3 feet by 4 feet. It's a nice big one. You can get them for relatively cheap. They're like 30 or 40 bucks or something like that, maybe 50 bucks. But get a nice big one so you have lots of room and you can write notes in there and all that stuff. You would start in the middle and have plenty of space. Try to start high so you can go down, and don't be afraid to use a space around, right? Here's my function right here, function. Oh shoot, I forgot to do something right here. I'll just draw an arrow over here and then write more stuff and go back in. It's okay, it's not a big deal. Use a dark pen. If their pen sucks, it might suck. Ask for a different one. Say, this pen, I can't write with this, it's distracting. Don't do that. They also can't see it if you're up there. That's not a good experience for anybody. Ask for a different pen. See if you can come up with a different pen. It also shows that you care about what you're writing right now, that you're just not just going through the motions. Okay. First thing you want to do also when you get to whiteboard and they say, show me FizzBuzz, write out FizzBuzz. Write pseudocode first for that. Write out function and then write out what the function's going to do. Here I'm going to test to see FizzBuzz, write FizzBuzz and print out multiples of 3 and 5 and fizz and buzz. So, okay, so if it's a multiple of 3 and 5, it's FizzBuzz. If it's just 5, it's just, fizz, or it's just 3 if it's just fizz. If it's just 5, then it's just buzz, and otherwise just print out the number. And then, write down the pseudocode for that, and then actually go through and make it. This is going to help you make it all the way through the whiteboard so you're not forgetting things. It's so easy to forget this type of stuff. And it's also going to help them see your thought process as you're going through this. And another thing that you want to do when you write down what it is, write down the function for whatever it is, write down what the task is. Write down FizzBuzz, and then write down their instructions, and feel free to ask them to repeat. If they say print out all the multiples of blah, 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 write down, print out all the multiples of blah, blah, blah. Write that down so you can go back and refer to it. And then when you go through and test your code, that's the last thing you should do when you whiteboard the whole thing. Actually run it on the whiteboard and say, okay, we are now at this point in the function, and write out we're doing here, whatever I equals, whatever n equals, whatever it's logging, whatever it's returning. When you write that out, you really, really want to have that on the whiteboard. Have all those thoughts and ideas on the whiteboard so that they can see how you think when you're going through all that code. And you can then look for errors if you're writing it on your whiteboard. So super important. And if you have run it through and you can see that, oh, I did make an error, that's great. You've just seen that, oh, I have my notes up here, I forgot to do this, or it doesn't actually run properly. But that's what you want to do so that everybody can see your thought process and how you tried to solve the problem or whatever it is. Okay, so at the end of the interview, after all this, thank them for their time and then ask for next steps. Hey, thanks for your time. What are the next steps? And they will likely tell you whatever it is. I will contact you next, the recruiter will contact you next, whatever it is. And then from there, well, let me back up. The reason, this might seem obvious, but I have it in my notes just so I can say it. Ask so you know and aren't wondering. So that you walk out, thanks for your time, this was great, look forward to hearing you, and leave. You don't know who's going to contact you if you do that. You don't know if it's going to be the recruiter, if it's going to be them, how long it might be. If you say, hey, thanks for your time, what are the next steps from here? They'll probably give you an answer like, I will be contacting you in the next few days. We're still interviewing some people. Then ask, what is the next, can I expect next week? Whatever that is, if you need more clarity at that point. So the reason you do this is you're not wondering for the next 2 weeks, am I going to hear anything back from these guys? Who am I going to hear from? Are they going to call me? Is it going to be email? That way you actually show that you're interested in, I want to know what happens next. I'm very interested in this position. And show them those things that you're very serious about this, and then also aren't wondering. So definitely do that. And then definitely ask, let me go back here. If they do offer you the job, before I move on, if they do offer you the job, don't accept the salary right away. Take some time to think about it. Say, I need to go home and talk to my girlfriend, my wife, my partner, my husband about this. And then call and write them back later and counter that offer. You don't have to take, if they say, great, you're hired, we're gonna pay you $15 an hour. You do not have to take that. Go home, go check how much you think you can actually make in this position. Make sure they're not lowballing you. Ask for whatever it is. And I'm using 15 as a super low number. Ask for 20, whatever it is. I know 15 is a really low number. It's ridiculous. You're not gonna get paid that as a developer. And if you do, at least in the Seattle area, United States, if you do, you can probably get that bumped when you're first going in. That's a really, really low number. Unless it's maybe something like internship, but that isn't something that I really know a lot about. Okay. So following up. So if you've done that, you've left the building, great. Hopefully you did well. Next thing you want to do, as soon as you get back to your computer, write your contact a note thanking them for their time. And then tell them why you think that you're a good fit. And if you struggled anywhere in your interview, let's say you struggled with that FizzBuzz question, do some research on it and say, hey, I was struggling here on the whiteboard and I realized it's because whatever it was. And then actually, if you can solve that and say, this is what I was actually trying to do, and send them back a working function, that is huge. Definitely do that and explain, oh, I didn't understand what you meant about XYZ. Or I misrepresented my thoughts on the REST API. REST APIs. I actually think that I was talking about something else, and here's more about REST APIs, stuff like that. That's great. You really want to do that. It's going to show how much you're interested in this position. And then ask if they had any further follow-up questions for you. And if you've done all that, you really show yourself to be ahead of a lot of other people, especially a lot of other junior developers out there, about how serious you are and how great of a fit that you are for their team. And lastly, remember that it's okay to fail. If you don't get that position for whatever reason, write down what you could do better and what you've learned, and then keep trying. It's, like I said, it's okay to fail. I failed plenty of interviews, technical, non-technical. You probably failed plenty of interviews. Technical interviews are super hard. Sometimes they ask you some ridiculous questions that they probably shouldn't be asking you, just because of the nature of where do you see yourself in 10 years. It's kind of a silly question, especially for a junior dev. But write down what you could do better, and then that way you actually captured, here's my weak point. And if you fail a couple of interviews for whatever that is, if you write down, I'm nailing my whiteboarding, but I can't figure out why they're not hiring me. And if you go through and you write down, oh, I could explain more about my ability to work as a team or something like that. And if you write that down a couple of times and you go back to your notes and say, oh, this is my weakness, I need to work on this. And then keep trying. You can do it. You can get that dev job, especially if you go through and follow everything I've talked about here. And don't just take my word for things that I've talked about. Go out there, watch a bunch of different videos on this, go read a whole bunch of articles, and keep trying, and you can get that dev job. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this content. I put a lot of thought into this long list of things. Good luck. Like I said, I know you can get that job. And if you like this content, please give me a subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.